Again, good morning to all of you, and I'm just delighted to be here with you. I was here visiting the university in May, and I was very fortunate to meet Jinan, who is brilliant marketing person for the center. And I was so impressed with what I learned about the center, and I am just delighted to actually meet Dr. Lamour here face-to-face this time and meet many of the other staff in the center. And I tell you, you guys have a gem here. The work that's done at the center is really impressive. Every university should have engagement in this area like the way you guys do here. So congratulations to all of you for the great work that's done in this area. One of the things also that I realized after meeting with Dr. Lamour is how the connection with all the different parts of the campus community is very strong. And I discovered that Dr. Lamour, in his hiring of his team, kind of selective. It seems like he hired people only who got the passion for the work that they do, which I think is a wonderful thing. So before I talk about it, I share my thought with you. I prepared a lot, but I want to make sure I'm going to do that in a timely fashion, just to share with you a lot of my thoughts in this area. I usually do a lot of presentation focus on technology or focus on policy, like my work with the government. Not very many times I get invited to talk about economic development and the environmental related issues. So just to tell you a few things about my organization. So I work for Rochester Institute of Technology. I founded that Center for Sustainability. We started way in 1990 where sustainability was not fashionable at the time. But the center over the years, we have two buildings, a large facility, 90,000 square foot facility, new facility, and one is 170,000 square foot facility. We do a lot of work. You can see on my left-hand side, you can see the research center. Two of them are funded by New York State. So we help business throughout New York State. One of them is focused on pollution prevention. And the goal for us here is to really look into the footprint of the state as a whole and trying to make sure that we proactively work on technology that we can deploy that would lower that footprint. The other one is really focusing on helping industry grow and helping entrepreneurs with a lot of ideas in the sustainability area to grow their expertise. We do also work in sustainable mobility and energy systems. That's what happened when you're around for that long. So you end up creating a lot of branches of our organization. You can see in the middle some of the focus that we have. And I just want to give you an idea that we also have two academic programs, one on sustainable architecture and one on sustainability. So we're at the graduate level only. Now, the Remade Institute, as Dr. Lamour described the work that we do, we're focused on reducing embodied energy in manufacturing. So way back in 2011 or so, the government wanted to figure out, how they can do something of national impact. So they formed, through the President's Council of Advisor in Science and Technology, they formed panels and discussions and learning and listening sessions. And I think all of a sudden they discovered that manufacturing is very important to the US economy. So all of a sudden manufacturing was a good word again among the leadership. So from that recommendation, now we have 17 institutes established in critical area to the US economy and competitiveness. The Remade Institute is one of them, where each institute is focused on a specific technology area. We're very focused on sustainability. We're focused on, our goal is to expand recycling and recovery, remanufacturing, reduce primary material consumption, increase utilization of secondary material. So it's all on the environmental side. And if you read about the competitiveness of manufacturing around the globe, which the field is very crowded these days, with many countries actually built sophisticated infrastructure in this area, you'll see the word there is that the next competitive advantage that countries would have in this area for their industrial enterprise is going to be in the sustainability area and how you make great product that with less material consumption, less emission, and less environmental footprint. So it is clearly, when you can do that, you can lower your cost and you can be more competitive. So the Remit Institute actually does technology development. We invest heavily in technology development. Your university has been one of the great partners in the institute, and we have many projects that are done at the university here. The workforce development, and we do a lot of work what we call circular design, which is in Europe, that's a very well-recognized term, because in order for us to really change the way we do things, we have to look at the design as the first step. We do a lot of demonstration and implementation as well. Just to give you an idea about some of the focus that we have nationally, we have been doing a lot of stuff in a fragmented way. And when there's a hype over one issue, you see some funding going in that direction. And those institutes actually are a different breed. They're a public-private partnership. And the focus is really to do everything strategically to make sure that we are making an impact. So we do a roadmap annually, and we revise this roadmap constantly to make sure that we are always calibrated. You can see the metrics here is focused on national metrics, from the primary feedstock consumption, reducing the feedstock consumption, reducing the secondary material energy. So many times when you recycle material, you use a lot of energy doing that. So it has its own footprint as well. So we really want to come up with innovative ideas to address that and reduce the energy consumption there. Greenhouse gas emission is a major factor for us that we're goal. Those are 5-year goals: reduce the greenhouse gas emission, develop technology capable of reducing greenhouse gas emission by 20%. When I took on the task of actually leading the institute and founding the institute, we thought that those were very ambitious goals, and we had a lot of doubts that this is going to be an easy journey. And today, years later, we far exceeded many of those. The brilliance of our people and people at university and industry have really resulted in results that really surprised many of us. As we're looking at it from impact perspective, from the national impact perspective. So this is an eye chart here for you, and you can see the membership of the institute has been growing. So we have 91 companies like Caterpillar, John Deere, Unilever, Ford, Honda, Volvo, many great companies. And we have 40 universities like MSU, MIT, RIT, and many others. We have 32 trade associations, 7 national labs. So it's really a fantastic public-private partnership. The goal is that everything we do should really result in tangible results that impact industry that we try to improve on their process and their competitiveness. I served with the National Academy, the board on manufacturing for many, many years. And one of the things that we always, in all of the studies that we did, always refer to is that the U.S. has just amazing capabilities, but universities have great talent, great resources, great labs. Many times the small, medium-sized companies, for example, even large companies, would have a significant need to actually develop something that in line with those capabilities, but we never connect the dots. It's always like we work in islands, and one of the greatest thing that can be done to utilize all of this great talents that we have is really connect the dots and all of those resources. You can talk about, again, I work also for university 25% of my time. I don't know if any lawyers are here, but typically some of the IP challenges are sometimes an obstacle for opening the door for making people working together. And I think this will be fantastic if we can figure out how to address it. So I know that the logos are too small, so I looked into the ones who are in Michigan just to make sure that I point out to those ones in Michigan here for you. So we have many, many great members here in Michigan. So those are some of our initiatives, and people who are, thinking about the economic development side of things. So I'm pointing to areas that we're very focused on to develop technology in. Those areas, to me, represent the new frontier of job creation and economic development. MRF is the material recovery facility where we bring everything back from municipal solid waste as well as commercial use. There's got to be a revolution in this area that do things extremely differently. I'll show you exactly why that is in a few slides here. Textile. Every time, you go buy a new shirt, sometimes you throw the old one in the trash, it goes to landfill. The volume of textile that we actually discard and end up in landfill is huge. And Nike, one of our members, for example, is working with us in a project to upcycle this material. We'll make new clothing, new line of product from old materials. And what a fantastic opportunity for innovation. The biggest problem is that if you have buttons in the shirt, for example, the buttons considered to be contaminants. So when you shred this material, you got foreign objects there that will not make it easy to upcycle this material. Electronic recycling is a huge issue, with 75% of electronics that actually that reach that point of end of use or end of life is all stored in our houses, in our drawers, and everywhere else. We tend to not want to get rid of this first iPhone that I bought many years ago. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of very valuable material embedded in those products, and there's a lot of money to be made in this area. Plastic recycling is one of those great issues. We talk a lot about recycling and circular economy. We have failed miserably in the plastics area in making huge progress. We still, under 9% recyclability rate. The electric vehicle, recyclability of electric vehicle, what an opportunity to actually build business model and build industry that work on some of those applications. Remanufacturing, which I will describe here in a few slides, and then circular design. Those are great economic development opportunity. This is a great opportunity for innovation, and we are developing a lot of this technology at Remade. And we partner with counties, we partner with economic development organizations. We are interested in this technology being deployed, so we help and we participate in a lot of events to help with that. But to step back a little bit, I'm talking about the big picture, and what are the drivers? I mean, if we work in making products, if we are in businesses that support companies that making those products, it's very important for us, to understand the broader challenges that we face that is going to impact what we do, what we make. It's going to impact regulation. It's going to impact the business and its competitiveness going forward. So I was one of those engineers who worked in manufacturing, worked in design. And it was an eye-opener for me. One time I read a book by one of my good friends today that opened my eyes to a lot of things that I never really knew about. I never studied in school. Nobody ever told me that there's some challenges here. And it was an eye-opener for me that really changed my career direction. But we have a lot of issues globally from an energy consumption perspective to the social impact of what we make and what we do, and how, for example, extraction of materials has significant impact. The biodiversity, the waste generation, the resource depletion. So many of those challenges we're all aware of, but many times we see those at a very, very high level. We don't really understand how we, at our level, in our decision making, are impacting many of those factors. And this is a disconnect. Many of my wonderful friends in the industry that work in design, they are environmentalists at heart, but I don't have the tools to make sure that I'm making the right decision that impact many of those factors. So the other factors that I also want to point to, and if you work in economic development, this is a very, very important data set for you here. 98% of population growth around the globe is that blue color that you'd see here. 98% is going into what we used to call developing countries. Today we call it the global south. So that's 98% of population growth is happening in parts of the world that lack the infrastructure that is necessary to support their own consumption, their own waste generation, their own water consumption. Many cities around the globe today are just extremely crowded and have many challenges. But you can see here in the what we used to call the developed countries. You can see here we're talking about 2% growth, and that happened because of migration and because of many factors. It's not because it's organic in terms of the population growth in this area. And that's kind of interesting. And one factor that implies is that consumption is going to increase drastically from this population growth. And one factor that has actually, years ago, it was not in the mix at all, that has changed the dynamics drastically in this area, is the internet. So if you have an iPhone, whatever number it is today, 14, you're not going to be able to sell iPhone 6 in many of those countries. People see on the internet the latest product, they know all the capabilities, they want the latest technology, even though sometimes they're too expensive for them, but they figure out a way to do that. So a lot of the consumption pattern that we've seen have just grown drastically. Somebody has to be making those products. Somebody has to be expanding their industrial enterprises to take advantage of these opportunities. Now, the United Nations has something called the IPCC, which is an Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I'm sure you all hear about their reports. So there's another panel called the International Resource Panel. This is the sister panel to the IPCC that I serve on since 2014 that doesn't get a lot of attention, which might be a good thing because I think the IPCC get sometimes bad press, even though they're really trying to do a great job. So we have scientific panels, scientific experts from around the globe, some of the top scientists in the world, and we also have government representatives because we guide policy. So this panel guide policy. I'm telling you that because I'm using a lot of data that we did in the panel here next. So that panel is focused on resource efficiency, it's focused on resource consumption, it's focused on resource management. Many of the material that we use and making electric cars come from countries like Chile, from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from China, from many parts of the world where some of that material come from, but the production happens someplace else. So there's a lot of that. So we see resource issues at the core of sustainable development. You'll see later on here how the percentage of material that we use in product or by dollars is extremely high. We look at sustainable management of natural resources are vital to poverty, eradication, environmental justice, and social coherence there. Resource management is a huge issue. As you can see here, 98% of the population growth, that implies significant increase in production and consumption. This here is also from my panel here, and it talks about the resource consumption. You can see just the pattern, how the consumption is rising over the years. And then a lot of people think that, well, but we got better and better at that from a resource efficiency in using this material. So you can get a lot more for what you, a lot more product out of the same material that you in the past used to do a lot less, to make product for a lot less. And in reality, actually, we see that trend to be, that's a mistaken assumption here, that the efficiency, that black line that you see here, that's how efficiently we are using this material. Two reasons for that. I think one of them is the fact that some of the materials that we extract, the mines are a lot more efficient today because we took a lot of the valuable part of that mine, and now we're into lower and less efficient materials. Other thing also is a lot of the newer industrial enterprises are not as efficient as what we have in the industrialized country. You would see here also that how many billions of global extraction that happens, 92 billion tons. And you would see here the material demand per capita, which is mind-boggling, is 12.2 tons. And that there's just amazing number to see how much consumption is going on and how much materials. The trick here is that in making product, in manufacturing, most of the emission and waste generated from production happens from material extraction and processing. And that gets me to the circular economy, where circular economy is a magic silver bullet here to solving some of those problems. So most of our emission and waste generated from manufacturing happens from material consumption and processing. This is here just one material here that throughout human history, the next 25 years, we would consume more than we actually used in just one copper than we consumed in the entire human history. And again, if you're not really interested in a lot of the environmental aspects of things and all of this, great information from a business perspective, think about it. Think about what that would actually. How is that going to change the horizon for us going forward? Another data point here I wrote this morning. Oops. All right. Just a data point from a member of my panel at UNIB was talking about, and I found it to be very interesting. China, between 2011 to 2013, used more cement than we use in the entire 20th century in the US. 20th century was a century of development, expansion, and building, and entire country for 100 years, China exceeded that in two. So just think about a lot of that. Making cement is heavy, energy-intensive industry, and it's got significant footprint. Now, landfill, all the product waste that we generate, we take it to landfill, we incinerate. 8 out of 10 of the incinerators that exist in communities that really lower income communities, that have no say in many cases in terms of where they're located. And obviously it impacts the air quality, impact health, it impact a lot of things. So all of that really get us to think about, how do we address all of those challenges in a serious way, allow us to move forward. So anyway, I've been working in this area for many, many years. And, and I thought I'd share with you my perspective in terms of how well are we doing to address these challenges, problems. And this is really how I think that we are addressing it. I'm not a good graphic designer, so I did my best. But you can see here, that's how we do things typically. It is we deal one challenge at a time. We had a decade of working on time to market. We have another 10 years where we're really focusing on design for manufacturing. We had a major focus on cost, and that's why we shipped everything to China. Because of cost, with all the know-how and everything with it. So in any case, this is an approach that has been taken for many years. In 2010, I chaired an advisory expert group for that organization called the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is really for industrialized country, and it's a think tank. It's economic engine there for a lot of those countries, and the U.S. has a major role in this. It's located headquartered in Paris, and we did a study on on really what needs to happen in the production system to address many of those challenges and address competitiveness. Because if you actually see the challenges related to material and consumption, competitiveness is a big issue. So we thought that the direction is that you go from pollution control, you start looking at cleaner production, eco-efficiency, and ultimately you go to that closed loop system, which means that you got to figure out a way when this material, this product is no longer in use, how we bring it back so we can mine it for material, so we use it in the next product, which sounds like a simple thing, but it's a complicated thing. One of the things that we learned, you cannot jump from pollution control all the way. You got to go through those one by one in order to make progress. Our estimate at the time is that Europe and the US were in the between the pollution controls and the cleaner production. We're way out there, so we have way to go in this area. The time we did this report and we developed some metrics, we published a book on this. You can find it actually from the OECD. The McKinsey group actually contacted me about this circular economy project that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing. And they asked me to help with that book, which is the first one on circular economy. You can download it from the website of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. For full disclosure, I'm a trustee with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, as Dr. Lamour mentioned. But the goal for us is that how do we make progress quickly, how we address all of this stuff, how we address economic development, business growth. And there are just so many opinions out there. So some of my colleagues in Europe, one of them actually wrote a nice book on, it's called Prosperity Without Growth. And I'm not necessarily buying into that concept, but in reality, it's a way for us to improve quality of life and everything else. You need to do that. And you need to have, you need to support economic development. But the way is that to do it is that by decoupling economic development from environmental degradation. So that's where we came up with this concept of circular economy. And the concept is real simple. Instead of that take, make, dispose linear model, we're going to a circular model. We're going to increase the life of products. So instead of making a product last for 1 year, make it 3. Imagine the impact of that on material consumption. You know, figuring out ways to extend product life through repair. There are many products that are unrepairable. We call it in the design world, we call it inseparable assembly. So if you open it up, you destroyed it. It's no longer repairable. So we wanted to change mindset, we want to change design that ultimately result in far less material consumption and environmental degradation. So that's why we came up with this butterfly diagram. The bio side and the food systems, 1/3 of what we grow in farms and what we do in the food production side end up in waste. So we need to figure out ways that we can address that side as well. This was from a presentation at the World Economic Forum, and this data is from Europe because Europe is far ahead in terms of awareness and work in this area. They talked about that their analysis showed that the resource productivity can go up by 3% annually in Europe by applying circular economy. Economic benefit of 0.6 trillion per year by 2030. EU has circular economy package. They have Horizon 2020. They have many significant programs in this area. We talk about also reducing the emission from materials by 56%. We talk a lot today in the US about decarbonization of industry, and that also can be a significant contributor to that. So that's what the circular economy is all about. It's really taken the impossible, the difficult task, and translate it to something that actually designers can do, companies can engage in. What I didn't tell you is that these are huge revolution from an economic development perspective. This is going to create new industries that do not exist today. This is going to create new business model. You know, if you think about that linear model and we dispose of everything to a model where we bring the product back, we call that reverse logistics, and the opportunities there are just significant. So one of our members at Remade is a company that deal with, we call it e-waste, I call it e-scrap, because the word waste is a bad word for us. In my dictionary, there's no such a thing as waste. It's a resource in a different form. So 85% of their profit come from product they test, they validate, and it goes back for resale. They repackage it, and it's refurbished units that do so. The rest come from that material they recycle. And 85% of their volume come from stuff that actually end up going to shredders, and only a smaller percentage come for product that can be reused. So this data also is from Europe, and I'm not going to go too much into that, but you can see here just significant data on the impact of circular economy. That's why Europe has put a lot of initiative in circular economy. Also, you would see that in Japan, and you see that in China. We're finally getting there. Finally, I mean, when I talked to Gina, and she said that she works in economic development, I was impressed enough until she started telling me about circular economy, because typically a lot of people who work in economic development don't really know what circular economy is. So that kind of got me to be a lot more impressed, because I think it's an opportunity for job creation, for business that is significant. So from economic development opportunities, they talk about the job creation in this area is going to be significant across the globe. Again, here we're talking about our ability to create jobs that deal with taking product back, recycle, remanufacture, increase the life of product, re-engineer a lot of our products. We've been designing things since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution with one mindset, and at the time there was plenty of material and plenty of land to throw our waste. Things have changed, our approaches have not. And I think that's where circular economy comes to really to re-examining a lot of that and presenting better and more efficient business model that are economical, that create jobs as well. So you can see here 6 million jobs can be created by transitioning to circular economy. Again, a lot of it gets into the material extraction side, the extending product life. If you have an iPhone that you dropped or something was in the first warranty period, you go to Apple, you get a refurbished phone. So it's happening in many areas. If you buy a Xerox machine, many times, you're better off buying one that's refurbished, that's upgraded to new standard, and it's half the cost of new. So it's a win-win for the consumer as well, for society as well, for the environment. Another economic development opportunity that we're going to see significant change in, we have something we call it MRF, the Material Recovery Facility. We're working at Remade and revolutionizing what happened in those facilities. We recover a very small percentage of what we get. So we actually go after the cherry picking, and there's significant material that go into those MRFs that can be extracted. That means a lot of money. That can be very valuable from an economic development perspective. It requires innovation. We're working on robotics that can do that material separation. We're looking into a lot of things. I mean, again, it's a new opportunities for innovation. Another area is, we call it remanufacturing. Henry Ford was the first industrialist to realize that, after one life cycle of his car, the engines have many valuable components, that remanufacturing is a way to bring the engine back to like new condition and restore the components and have that engine last another life cycle. Two examples from an economic development perspective from Remade project, we have TIC licensing from Virginia Tech. So they can extract very valuable material from end-of-life electronics through some new innovative technologies that we developed that can increase the economics, improve the economics for recyclers of e-waste tremendously. Another one is a new licensing also, or this company actually is building a facility right now. I think they opened it up recently. They look into improving the efficiency of recycled aluminum, which use fraction of the energy that is used for virgin aluminum, and also makes it far cheaper for companies to use. The auto industry uses a lot of aluminum, and this can be a great way of getting that. So my last slide, I think, in conclusion, I think we see that circular economy is a key industrial strategy that can result in significant business opportunity, and also can result in addressing many environmental challenges. And it's a wave of the future. If we don't do that, we're going to face a lot of challenges in manufacturing. So with that, I appreciate very much the invitation, and I'm always thrilled to learn about what you're doing here and see Dr. Limor and his great team. And thank you very much.